He came right through the wall like the strong man he is, like the owner of the place, like the parables he always told us. We were clueless what he meant until he showed up. He broke into the very place we had run to hide. He walked right in and ransacked our darkness, ran out all of our unbelief, especially mine. Purely ransacked our souls with the intentions of chasing out every shadow of doubt. Oh yeah, I'm that guy. The one who's famous for one pitiful thing, not believing in him. It wasn't that I didn't believe him. I knew he was Messiah, all right. There's no doubt about that. I knew that from the start. Believing him is a whole different story. At least it was for me. Difference between night and day. The difference between what we saw when they killed him and the state of mind that it put us all in, and what we saw when he stood smack dab in our midst on Glory Day. So, let me tell you about Glory Day. The day I broke out of my past and left the old me behind and hit the here and right now forever full on. We were all there in the room, nerves on edge, pretty depressed after what happened, not to mention the guys who ran the show up at the temple already hated us. Word began to spread like wildfire that we were history too. Toast. They were looking for us everywhere. So we hid out like he couldn't find us. Or we could have just stayed hid forever. One minute it was all doom and gloom. The next minute I was standing there in front of him like, what the, hey, is that you, Jesus? My mind in a whirl and my body suddenly on fire from top to bottom, inside out, like the furnace of Shadrach. And there he was. I fell into him weeping in awe and relief. I guess you could say disbelief. I mean, put yourself in our shoes, or at least mine. I mean, I really loved him. I saw what they did to him. And believe me, it's a scene that only his showing up as he really is could take away. So excuse me if I seem a little slow on the uptake. But look at the rest of my life, and you'll see that I got with the program, got on the bandwagon. That's the power of his resurrection. Know what I mean?
We ended Uncle Silas' Shiva today for the second time. We don't mourn as we once did. We know now he's not dead. His body's just sleeping for a bit after a long, full life. He had told us he couldn't wait anymore, so we drank to his health and about died ourselves from laughter, rejoicing for him. That would have offended before. I remember our mood the first time we buried him. It was the difference of life and death. He was young then and not yet wed. We marvel how different Silas was his second time around. We are all very different because of him. Different about everything. We know now. We have seen with our eyes, we have held in our hands, the reality of the world Mashiach rules over. This temporary one is but a sigh in the night by comparison. Uncle Silas showed up zigzagging down between the houses just after the earthquake. I laugh out loud thinking of it. The city was already in an uproar surrounding the Nazarene's crucifixion. His disciples had gone into hiding. And now, there he was, a mummy coming down the street. People were gasping and darting away in terror. There he was, walking up our road, wrestling to get out of his grave clothes. Who had ever seen such a thing? In an instant, I knew whose hands those were, impatiently ripping off their bonds, hands that could bend bronze or hold mine so tenderly. As soon as he got his face free, Uncle burst out laughing. The same uproarious laughter that used to echo down these alleys where he was born, lived, and had died too soon. Imagine a little girl of 9 racing up the road to hug a living corpse. No one dared to go near, touch a dead man walking. But I did, with all my might. Unclean or not, my Uncle Silas was alive. We made him tell it again and again. At supper in the synagogue, we children would find him and beg him to repeat the details while he finished a new wall or hoisted an oak beam over a doorframe. The righteous aren't dead, he'd say. A flashing grin would cross his face in confidence, his once again bulging muscles at work. He'd look us in the eye and silent thunder rumbled through our soul. My hair stood on end in a mix of awe and joy. He was living proof. The sun shining in noonday, strength is darkness compared to the light that flashed forth in Sheol that day. Death gasped when the warrior broke in. The powers that bound us in that place suddenly ceased to exist in his presence. And we who had been weighted down by them were instantly loosed. Abraham, Moses, and all the rest kept telling us that he was coming, that he would bring us out in an exodus greater than that of our fathers from Egypt. His hair flashed like lightning bolts. His eyes were flames hotter and brighter than hell itself, flames of burning love. His garment swirled around him, swallowing up our grave. Uncle Silas would twirl around. 10,000 New Year shofars and the shouts of Israel when Jericho fell are whispers in comparison, he would exclaim. Eyes wide, he'd stop. And suddenly, there I was, stumbling down our dusty street as if coming home from a day's work. Don't be afraid of death or the men who peddle it anymore, Uncle Silas told me. The righteous one has the last laugh. He finished it all, took care of the whole thing for us.
His death meant we live and live on to tell about it and do the stuff. I saw it time and again out of my own hands, as though the ones he stretched out and said, "Here, Tom, grab my hand. See, that's where the nail went in." And you fell down cursing my executioners. Well, here I am, as though those hands came alive inside mine. I was convinced and became a convincer. He said that too, remember? Anyone who believes the works that I do and greater works, it's not a question. Proof that he isn't dead, happening all around us while we're here just like him. People used to say my brother and I were lookalikes. Walked like each other, talked like each other, couldn't tell us apart one from the other. But I'll tell you who I'm really like. There's a lot of stories. People want to know. India, hey, what difference does it make? And do you really need to know how I died? I laid myself down in him. The point is, just like him, I'm alive. And you will be too if you believe. And so, we go on. We keep going. Everything we did after that flowed out of Glory Day. All of it. heal the sick, cleanse the leper, cast out devils, raise the dead. That's the full instructions to the possessors, the new strong men. But you know what they call us now? Believers. Don't see him, believe him. Believe me, I know what I'm talking about. Do the stuff. He lives. It's glory day.
Dead.